Unity of Tacoma. We are an online church with a physical presence here in Tacoma, Washington. Whether you're joining us online or whether you're here with us today in our storefront, I thank you for being here. I'm very excited that you joined us today. We're doing a series on the 5 basic principles. We're on principle number 2. I'm going to do a quick review for you, and then we're really going to dive into principle number 2 and why you should care about it. As you may recall, if you've been here for the past 2 weeks, we discussed what a principle is. A principle is defined as a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behaviors or for a chain of reasoning. So these 5 basic principles that I'm offering in this series is something that you can try on and see how it works for you and bounce things off of. What is your experience of the world? And then bounce it off of these principles that we're teaching. Because the idea is to not go into the area of dogma. Dogma is a principle or set of beliefs laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. And one of the things that we've discovered as we've been discussing the 5 basic principles is that they have evolved over time. Not because truth changes, but because our understanding of truth changes. And one congregation may use an entirely different wording of the principles than another congregation simply because that's what resonates with them. And the invitation is to just say that that's okay. That's okay. We're just going to try these on. One of the other things that we talked about in our overview the first week was whether or not Unity is a Christian denomination and whether or not Unity of Tacoma is a Christian church. And the invitation is to allow this to be something that's open and available regardless of someone's self-proclaimed religious identity. I believe that these principles will work whether or not you identify as a Christian. And so that was the invitation. Unity itself tends to use Christian terminology and celebrate Christian holidays, and for that reason it can feel very much like this is a Christian religion. And at the same time, I truly believe that whatever your religious beliefs are, a fundamental truth is going to work for everyone. So we're going to revisit that just a little bit later on. The other thing is that we discussed what a paradigm is. That a paradigm is a piece of the pie. And it's a piece of the pie that's sometimes mistaken for the entire pie. And again, an invitation simply to remember that whatever your religious or theological identity is, other people have theological and religious identities, and that's just fine. This is not the one way. All paths lead to God. This is simply an open space for learning and growing together using these principles. The first basic principle is that God is all there is, present everywhere, and absolute good. I think that's yummy. And I think that there are a lot of other religions that would hear that and agree wholeheartedly with it. Several weeks ago, we had a guest speaker, Christine S. Young, and one of the things that she was trying to teach is that when you take things in their parts, it's easier for learning. But a holistic approach is what really brings value. So I'm presenting each of these principles one at a time, but encouraging you to take a holistic approach to them. We're going in order. These principles are genius. I think Connie Fillmore just nailed it when she came up with them back in the 80s. And if you can accept the invitation to try on principle number 1, that God is good, everywhere present, and accept the invitation to try on principle number 2, which is that human beings are created in the image of God, and our very essence is divine. Therefore, we are inherently good. Just try that on. Then I think you'll see how much you can do with principles 3, 4, and 5. This is just setting you up with a solid foundation to be prepared for the amazing things ahead of us when we get to the part where the rubber really meets the road. So revisiting that idea of Christianity, the principle number 2 is where we tend to diverge with mainstream Christianity. Right? Mainstream Christianity will teach us that we're broken. It's the doctrine of original sin, that we're broken and we cannot be fixed. We have to rely on something outside of ourselves for grace. And unity teaches exactly the opposite, that we're born innocent, that we're already whole, perfect, and complete, and that we simply need to allow ourselves to reveal that wholeness through the living of our lives. I am responsible for all the stuff on Facebook, and I always invite people to email me and give me feedback, and I've gotten some feedback recently from someone who said absolutely, positively, we are not Christian if we don't teach original sin, and that we're fools, was the response. To which I responded, may you be filled with loving kindness, may you be well, may you be peaceful and at peace, and may you be happy. Her system works for her. I'm sure that she is a very kind, charitable, loving person who's thriving in life. We may disagree philosophically. I just want that to be okay. So I would invite you to listen to some questions, rhetorical questions, and just try them on, just for starters, just to kind of take the temperature of where we're at, each of us individually. How does it feel to you when I say you're broken? Nothing can fix you. The only power that's any good in your life is a power outside of you. Oh, I hear a lot of deep breathing. Go ahead. Breathe in the light. Breathe out any sort of negativity that brought up for you. A lot of us were raised in religions that taught us that. That's fine. All right, so everyone collect a deep breath. Okay, and let's try this on. How does it feel when I say to you, human beings are created in the image of God, and our very essence is divine. Therefore, we are inherently good. How about this? You are created in the image of God, and your very essence is divine. Therefore, you are inherently good. How empowering does that feel? The invitation today is to take the first principle and the second principle and bounce everything that you know and experience off of them and see where it leads you in your mind. Because this is not an easy path. It's much easier to say there's nothing within my control. It's all out there. Therefore, when I encounter something that's bad and negative, I get to label it evil, and that's how I explain it to myself. That's a lot easier than looking at something that's bad and negative and uncomfortable and going, everything is God. God is here. There is good in this. That's not an easy walk. It's a very lonesome walk because we all experience it each in our own way. I have some favorite New Thought musical artists, and at 3 o'clock this morning, I remembered the perfect song for this celebration service. I wish I had thought of it 2 weeks ago so I could include Dallas in, because I know these people would have absolutely rocked this song. It's by Beverly and Garnett, if you're familiar with them. It's called Born Innocent. And I love this song. It begins with, they say that Jesus died for your sins, and that's where the trouble begins. So that's dogma, right? They say. Some authority said. And just a little bit later, it says, if Jesus were here today, he'd say, you were born innocent, you were surely heaven sent. And that's what I believe. That's what I believe about each and every one of you. You are born innocent, you are heaven sent. You are here for a divine purpose and a divine reason that only you can fulfill here on this earth. Last week I told you about a book I read. It was called So What? And the entire purpose of this book was for speakers and marketers to answer the question, so what, before anyone else asked it of them. The point being that if you can't answer the question, so what, you're just wasting people's time. Just yammering, putting pictures and memes and whatnot out. So let's discuss the so what a little bit when it comes to the second principle. There's something that comes around every once in a while. I don't know if this quote's attributable. I'm sure somebody will tell me if it is. But have you guys heard, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? Everyone's heard that. Does that make you feel empowered? Isn't that a wonderful thing? And the perspective that I would like to take is not what do you want to do, but what are you meant to do. When I was 16 years old, I went to an audition and was selected to do a theater camp in Minneapolis. So I went to Minneapolis along with 70 other kids from around the United States, and every single solitary last one of us were the absolute best in our little podunk towns that we came from. And then they had auditions. And someone had to be in the chorus. So we had girls and boys who had never lost the lead in their school play ever being cast as chorus members. And I'll never forget one of the girls in my dorm area in tears because she'd been cast in the chorus. And they told her that she was bad lady number one. And she was absolutely devastated because she always considered herself the ingenue, and in fact, in her podunk town, she was always cast as the ingenue. Bad lady number one felt insulting. That was not what she wanted, and she knew she could be more than that because she had been more than that. And I remember after her crying and all the girls gathering around and telling her how amazing and wonderful she is, tearfully she sniffled. She says, I'm going to be the best bad lady there ever was. And she turned it into something positive for herself. We have a tendency in our culture to tell our kids, you can be anything you want to be. A lot of us grew up with that. I was kind of coming in at the beginning of that movement of telling kids, hey, you can be whatever you want to be. But there's another level to that. Not everyone can be president. What? Shock, dismay. Ask anyone who's run for president. Not everyone can be president. So there's a second piece to that. We're really going to get into it in principle number 4. And that's listening not for what you want to do, but what you are meant to do. What is God's highest idea of itself as you? I'm very comfortable with the word God. If you are less comfortable with the word God, I invite you to substitute universe, spirit, goddess, whatever works for you. Higher power, etc.
HP.
HP. Not Hewlett Packard. Harry Potter. So the first talk was called God Is, and this talk is called I Am. You may have guessed from one of the songs. I was delighted this morning when I checked my email that a fellow religious science practitioner had posted a poem, prayer, something to our group email thing called I Am. Her name is Kathy Anthony, and we're going to use that for our meditation this afternoon. But God is, I am, at 2 different levels. There's that which is universally true of each and every one of us, and then there's that reason that we were put here. There's that heather-shaped space in the world that can only be filled by heather. There is that gem-shaped space in the universe that can only be filled and fulfilled by Jen. All right, God is what? God is God is good. All right, if God is good, then I am. If God is love, then I am love. God is poised.
I am poised.
God is joy.
I am joy.
Oh, claim it. God is abundance.
I am abundance.
Great system.
Oh, thank you, Carlton. It's like a career high right there. God is peace.
I am peace.
That's right. We can all say that because that's true of each and every one of us. But there's more work to be done to answer, I am what? Now, for a few people, it has been true. I am President of the United States of America. Deep, deep calling of their heart. And somewhere underneath that calling is something else. A desire to serve, a desire to be a civil servant, to create a better place for everyone to live. Empowerment, peace, abundance. There's something higher underneath that drive to be president. My senior minister from Seattle loved to tell this story on herself. She was learning about these principles, and especially principle number 3, this idea that our thoughts create our reality. She thought she was going to try that on, and she knew absolutely for certain this flashy red sports car is what she was called to manifest for herself in her life. And she did. She prayed on it. She used the law of attraction. She just opened herself up to the finances being available, the right car coming at the right time, and what do you know? The car came along. And what she quickly discovered was getting the car was one thing, maintaining it was entirely another. And when ultimately she had to admit to herself that the car was not her highest priority for her time and her finances, she had to release the car. And when she did, she got to ask herself the question, why? Why was I so drawn to getting this fancy, flashy, red sports car? And after doing some prayer work and talking to her spiritual leaders, she came to the understanding that what she actually sought was freedom. And I'll tell you, God is freedom, so
I am freedom.
that's right. But she hadn't put her finger on quite exactly what that meant for her. She had somehow thought that she had this experience of freedom in the car, and so in order to experience freedom in her life, she needed the flashy, fancy red sports car. So we're all called to express freedom. We're all called to express peace. We're all called to express joy and abundance and poise. But we're all called to express that each in our individual way. We are each and every one of us individualized expressions of the one life. And you won't express it the way I express it, and I won't express it the way you express it, and that, to me, is beautiful. What would this country look like if we were president? Just imagine that. Boring, a little scary. I'm a little bit of a control freak, so having a bunch of other control freaks running around just doesn't sound very good to me at all. The key to getting to that part about what is mine to do, what is mine to express, what is God's highest idea of itself as my life, is spiritual practice. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks from now. This is the part that gets me really excited. In fact, next week, I'm trying to figure out how to keep my talk to 20 minutes, because I could easily talk for 3 hours just giving you an overview. That's how excited I am about principle number 3, because it's worked so well in my life. And the reason why it's worked so well in my life is that I've allowed myself to do these building blocks that come ahead of that. God is good and so am I. God is love and so am I. God is peace and so am I. And how am I called to express that in the world? And identifying how I am called to express it in the world is where spiritual practice comes in. A lot of us, like that minister, go for the car because it gives us a feeling. And we forget that we're already the freedom that we seek. I have a young friend who's been through about 3 different careers. First, she wanted to be a surgeon because that was very important and everyone respects a surgeon and she just wanted that esteem. And then she wanted to be a Marine because her father was a Marine and she had so much respect. And she's a very patriotic girl and she wanted to do something that was in service to our country. And neither one of those careers worked out for her. In fact, the career that was working out for her the best for the longest was being security at Comic-Con. Oh, SakuraCon, that one. She was being security at SakuraCon. And she was very, very good at it. And she loved doing it, but it wasn't really a career path for her. So now she's pretty much a professional student, but she's very happy. And I see where she's going. I don't think she does. Right now she's a nurse. And while she was going through nursing school, one of the things that she would tell me is that she was terrible at the paperwork, at the classwork, book learning stuff. But when she's on the floor, her clinical skills far surpass anyone else's. She never makes a dosage mistake. She can do that stuff in the fly, in her head. She always can see just a moment before it happens when the patient's going to turn. She's just got this sixth sense for nursing. But being who she is, she can't just be a nurse. There's so many nurses in this world. No, she's going to be a doctor nurse. She's going to get her doctorate of nursing. She's going to be Dr. Nurse Molly. I'm so impressed with her. And I'm telling you, what she is called to do is to support and lead other nurses in being amazing clinical nurses. I see that coming for her, either in a school setting or as an administrator in the hospital. But it's not going to happen for her until she just stops and allows it to express. Right now, she's really driven to get the highest education she can possibly get. And that is her goal. And what I know is that she's called to that because she's an amazing nurse and she can be in support of other nurses being astonishing clinical nurses. So now you have the foundations, the building blocks, the 2 main building blocks for building the next 3 principles off of God is, I am. And so the invitation this week is to play with that and see what comes up for you. See where you balk at it. Yeah, I'm not peace right now, that's for sure. Find those places. Question it. Walk it through with someone that you trust. Send me an email. Let me know what's going on for you. Visit with one of our chaplains. I like to say that I'm the poster child for New Thought. I know a lot of people feel that way. I used to be a victim. I was the victimest victim you've ever met in your entire life. That was my entire identity until I found this philosophy. And it's true, you change your thinking and you change your life. And it starts with being able to accept the goodness and the love and the joy that you are. So play with the yeah buts. Okay, I'm joy, but I don't feel joyful. So can I still be joy? I play with that. I'm not being very loving right now. I don't feel lovable. I don't think anyone loves me right now. So how can you say God is love, I am love? That just doesn't feel true for me in this moment. That's the path to true understanding of what this philosophy is about. And it will empower you to step into a place of greater understanding of yourself, of your higher power, your HP, and of the people around you. You understand it for yourself first, so you can recognize it in others. When you can stand in the place of recognizing, okay, that wasn't very loving, but still understanding that God is love and therefore I am love. When you stand face to face with someone who's not being loving or who doesn't feel lovable, you can know it for them. And you really can't move through the next 3 principles and use them for anything truly solid in your life if you're not playing with these first. The law of attraction. My minister friend used the law of attraction to get that car, but it wasn't enduring. The car wasn't enduring. That she is freedom is enduring. This can be work. It can be hard. You can just work it and work it and work it, or you can remember that it's your innate nature. I am the person who has a career I didn't think I'd be. I am the person in a fantastic relationship I didn't think I'd be. I am the person debt-free and thriving, and I didn't think I would be, ever. And I credit these principles, and I credit getting over myself and not talking negatively about myself, and not thinking negatively about myself, and not talking or thinking negatively about others. And I fail sometimes. I stumble, and I learn from it. I get right back up, and I go straight to the truth. Hi, capital T, truth. God is good, and so am I. God is good, and so are you, regardless of appearances. And I play with it, and I dance with it, and I question it. And I step in and out of it and see how I feel and see what happens in my life. And I'm telling you, when I fully step into it, when I fully embrace it, my life is good. And I thrive. And I prosper. And I can meet people with the God in me beholds the God in you. And my relationships are good. And my life is good. And I'm happy. Because even when I'm sad, because sadness comes, and sadness is always just an expression of love. We don't grieve something we don't love. But there is this overarching, divine joy that defines my life and runs through my life and expresses as my life, even when the tears flow, and the snot, and the because God is good, and so am I, and God is love, and so am I, and so are you. Will you join me now for a meditation?